Wait for the button to say yes. Oh, we're on. Okay, welcome everyone to another session of Music Matters with F. And I am so pleased to have in the studio this evening, Rebecca Brooks. Welcome.
Hi, Everton. How are you doing? It feels like I've known you for about a million years, and then at the same time, it feels like no time has passed at all whatsoever. So yeah, it's lovely to speak to you properly for a long time.
Well, I feel honored and privileged right now because two reasons. One is, yes, I've known you from way back. And as I'm looking at you through the screen, you don't change. You
Oh
do not
God.
change. So
Oh,
whatever you're
oh,
doing, just keep doing.
well, I appreciate that. I feel very old. I think this year has aged everybody, maybe not everybody, but definitely me, by about 10 years. So thank you. I do appreciate that. That's really lovely.
Okay, so without any further ado, I'd like you to start by telling us who you are. Obviously you're Rebecca Brooks, but who is Rebecca Brooks?
Um, that is a question that I don't think even my therapist could answer. I'm joking, I don't have one, but maybe I need one. No. Who is Rebecca Brooks? So I started out as an artist probably when I was about 14, 15, and have just been kind of cracking on since, really. I was lucky enough to be involved in some fantastic projects when I was very, very young, sort of between the ages of 14 and 18. I kind of just threw myself into everything, really, and I still kind of have that attitude, that in this industry particularly. And there's a huge variant of opinion on this, so I'm going to say this, and at the same time I'm fully aware that there's like the other side of me that's going, no, that's ridiculous, you need to be really selective. But a big part of me has always said, just kind of, if the opportunity comes up, take it, give it a go, either learn from it or benefit from it. Like, that's kind of been my the way I've operated and the way I've always operated. So I found myself in doing some really amazing things, some really weird things, some wonderful things. And yeah, I think that's kind of the way I've always been. But like I say, I do know that there are other people that say, be really selective, only take the opportunities that you think will get to you to your next kind of big thing. And who knows? I think there's merit in both of those ideas of thought, but that's the way I've always been.
Okay, can I take you back to a time where you went abroad? How
Yeah.
did that come about? What were you thinking? And tell us about your experiences in that phase of your musical career.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd been given an opportunity here in this country that for one reason or another just couldn't happen, basically. And I was furious and I was a bit cross, and I was kind of just a little bit like, right, well, I need to get out then. If I can't do what I want to do, I need to do something else. So I did. And I went on holiday and got offered a job in a hotel that I was staying in, doing what they call animation, which is kind of entertainment. If anyone's ever been to, kind of, it's a bit of a Butlin style thing, but obviously in the sun, which is much nicer, maybe. No offense to any Butlins people. But so that's where I was. And I did, it was a fantastic training ground for how to do kind of real show-stopping performances, and how to kind of, the show must go on. It was very kind of, very showbiz and lights, and we had a really great time learning how to work all the lights and making our own sound happen. And we did the sound for the other team members and their lights. So it was all that kind of thing. It was really, really kind of good training ground. And of course, we had the amazing benefit of having a stage 24 hours a day, basically, where we could go and rehearse and try out new things. And because it was a holiday type destination, it was a case of people with you a week, 2 weeks, and you got to know them. So then when you were performing, it was slightly less daunting because you'd been, I don't know, playing petanque with them 3 hours earlier. But it was really, I don't know, it was a really good experience. So I did that for some time. And then I went on and did the shows. So we had shows coming in, guest artists. And I thought that sounded like it sounded like a better thing for me. So I moved on and did that. So I was in different bars, hotels, restaurants, for a number of years, and then did fly back. So I was flying across the different islands and performing there in like H10 hotels and various other kind of hotels and restaurants and bars and stuff, and it was amazing. It was really, really good. It was great fun. It was a great way to hone your act and make sure that you knew all the words. And I mean, the amount of songs I've had to learn over the years, because of course you were the same people were potentially seeing you all week, so you had to have a whole week's worth of shows, which you know isn't necessarily the done thing here. You know, coming back here, I noticed that a lot of people have their hour and a half or 3 hours, and that's what they do, and they literally lift that with their lights, with their backgrounds and everything, and they take it to the next venue and so on and so forth. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong or bad about that, but yeah, it's definitely a different way to be.
Excellent, and very, very intriguing, very interesting. Also, I know that you had a stint in the States. Did you go to the States for educational purposes?
Yeah, exactly. So after a kind of a fair amount of time doing what I was doing, and so there's the downside, right? So if you're performing and you are going in and out of venues, and you know you're getting booked regularly and you're doing well, but you're kind of on that circuit, you're on that level. Does that make sense? You know, I wasn't getting flown to New York and singing in front of Alicia Keys, for example. I was singing in nice 5-star hotels, don't get me wrong, but sometimes, not always, let me hasten to add. But that was it. And I kind of felt like, okay, well, this is great and this is good, and I'm glad I've got to this stage. And my kind of aim as a child was always, I want to make a living out of singing. I want to get paid, be able to pay my bills from singing. That's it. So at the age of like 24, 25, when I'd done that, it felt a bit, and that was maybe my own fault for not having a higher goal. But at that stage, I was like 24, I've kind of done it. And I hadn't really done it, but I'd done what I set out to do, which is a really weird feeling. I don't know if anyone who's watching has experienced that, where you've kind of got this idea of what you want to do, and you get there and you do it and you go, okay, great, now what? Like, it's that really weird moment of now what? So that stage I thought, okay, the downside of doing stuff by yourself on your own terms, if you like, is that there almost wasn't anybody to pull you in and go, do you know what, that was a good show, but that note, you need to work on that. Or you know, you did that really well, but actually your stage presence sucked because you were thinking about your show yesterday or what you had for dinner or whatever. So and that was just my own thoughts. Whereas when I was working in the team, in the entertainment team, people really would say that, you know, there would be someone coming up to me that wasn't great, Rebecca, or that was amazing. But so 5-6 years have gone by of me working by myself or in kind of small groups, and I decided actually I wanted to push myself a little bit further. And so I decided to go into and I'd never been to university, so when I'd left this country at 17, 18, I'd done so with really poor A-level results and kind of, on a bit of a whim, if I'm honest. But my whim turned into a 12-year stint, so it wasn't the end of the world. But at that stage, I thought, I need to do something different. I need to try and push myself and extend myself. So I looked at universities in the UK, and I looked at a number of different things, and was offered a place at the Musicians Institute in Los Angeles. Which was awesome. So off I went and flew over to the States and did almost 6 months over there doing a for want of a better word, it was maybe like a GMBQ type thing, I guess. It was a small proportion of what they call their bachelor's degree. So if I'd have then done that, so I was doing the same course as the children, and they were children mostly, on the bachelor's degree. But I was I booked to do three and a half, 4 months of it. So it was great. It was really good fun. I met some amazing people, like seriously amazing people. I was taught theory by Mike Campbell. So if we've got anyone that kind of wants to brush up on their theory, have a little look at his books. They are amazing. I was introduced to a whole new way of reading music. I'd always read music the traditional kind of Western way, the way we've learned it in Europe, which is, or maybe even specifically to England. And now we were doing like whole notes and quarter notes and half notes and movable one If anyone's listening has any idea what I'm talking about, that's good news. If not, I'm sorry. Maybe come back to me and we'll go through it. But yeah, so Movable 1, which was really stressful because I'd always kind of had the C, D, E, F, G kind of thing, and now C was what they called 1, but then in the scale of say D, that would be 1 would be D as well, and so on and so forth. It was very complicated, so that was good. I had to kind of really kind of train my brain to relearn that kind of stuff. There was an amazing woman called Mama O, who is fairly famous over in the States, and she was our kind of choreographer type person. I did a session in metal singing, which was really bizarre but wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not listening. It didn't convert me, but I did it. Do you know what I mean? And I opted in for it as well. I thought it would be a good thing to do. And that was the cool thing about it. There was just so many different opportunities to perform different types of music. They had something called the Real World LPW, which was amazing. It was just a case of you had to turn up, they'd tell you what song it was, and you'd have to sing it, and that would be it. And you'd have, the people in the keyboard department, drum department, sax department, so on and so forth, all doing the same thing. And the Americans in the only way they can, would 8 bars in go, keyboards, you're sacked, get out. And they'd have to be immediately swapped in for the next guy, and that guy would then sit there panicking, and then eventually hopefully his turn would come up and he'd have another go at it. So that was really cool. It was really awesome, and I did that for yeah, like I say, about 3.5 months, and then I moved back and sort of cracked on, but with almost like a higher level of thinking of, okay, well, now I've got a little bit more in my armory to kind of plan my shows a little bit more, maybe think more about the aesthetics, maybe think a little bit more about the type of songs I'm going to pick, perhaps, or really pushing myself vocally, which again, if you're working by yourself, you don't tend to do, or I didn't. I'm sure there are lots of people out there that say, well, I'm working by myself and I definitely push myself vocally. Well, good for you. I was lazy. So yeah, at this stage now, I was like, okay, I've now seen what I can do when I'm being pushed, and I'm going to try and hold myself up to that account. And yeah, that was a big thing. Okay,
so thank you for that. And we're going to bring it up to date, but not this year yet, because I understand that up until 2019, tell us how you mixed the aspect of your career in terms of your performance and in terms of your education.
Wow. Okay. So when I moved back to this country, I started on the circuit here, and it's a completely different kettle of fish to what I'd been used to. For a start off, if you were working sort of 6 times a month, that was amazing. People were like, oh my gosh, you've got 6 shows. Whereas abroad, you had to be working 8 or 9 shows in a week to make ends meet. So it was this kind of idea of, actually now we're going to get paid more money, but for kind of longer shows in the same venue. Again, that was different. So but yeah, it took me a really long time to kind of establish myself, and I still, if I'm honest, don't feel like I'm 100% established on the circuit in the UK yet.
Okay.
It's a different ball game, I have to say, but nonetheless, that is what I'm doing. So I'm working kind of as a singer for hire in wedding venues, or in with bands, either people that I've met and worked with before, or as deputies for bands that kind of need a singer last minute, and also then working with people that I've met or by myself, and doing kind of shows in venues as well. So that's been really good. I mean, I've worked with the Black Country Big Band. They're awesome people. That was great a couple of years ago. And definitely I'm loving live music, because that was the other thing. So gone off a bit of a tangent, so I do apologise, but
no, it's okay.
I'd always been working with backing tracks, not always, but a lot of my time I'd been working with backing tracks, and not that there's anything wrong with that, and I have to say there are definitely benefits to that, financially, even from an emotional perspective, what's going to happen, there's not going to be any changes to it, all this sort of thing. But when I moved back to the UK, that was something else I wanted to do. I wanted to get a degree. I'd always wanted a degree, which sounds really, really petty, and it was, and it still feels petty a little bit, but I really wanted one, so I went and got one.
Good, well done.
I got accepted into studying at Access to Music, which was linked into BCU, and got an honours degree in performance, which was amazing. And
excellent.
Yeah, it was so, and I'm, I still kind of go, got a degree. I know that's something really silly, but I do kind of go, yes, I have one. And people say, is it worth getting a music degree? I don't know if it is worth it. I learned loads. It definitely gives you space. I think that's probably one of the biggest things it gives you a physical space, but also a mental space to kind of go, right, this is what I'm going to do. It allowed me time to focus on things that I hadn't done before. So the demands of the course were that I had to deal with digital audio workstations. I even had to think about what it was, for anybody sat there going, who calls it that? I have to think of it as that, because it's all your anything from Logic and all that kind of, not my bag at all, but I had to. So I learned it a little bit.
Good.
And I've used it since. I've used those skills since, in terms of doctoring tracks and getting rid of fade outs and starting the song before, and real simple things that actually, did I really need to be sending that out and paying somebody substantial amounts of money to do that for me all of those years? Probably not, but now I've learned how to do it. I don't have to do that anymore, which is great.
Excellent.
It gave me space to practice the piano, so that's something that I've always, as you know, kind of had in the background a little bit, and it's still in the background very much, but it gave me that opportunity to go, right, one of the things is that you can perform with accompanying yourself. That was one of the tasks in one of the modules, so I had to do it. So I had 12 weeks to make sure that happened, and it did. So I think that was one of the biggest things. And then obviously the tutors were phenomenal. I met some incredible musicians, and the lecturers there were absolutely incredible. Ashley Allen, and who's just recently released an album, so please do check it out if you are a jazz lover, rhythm blues lover, kind of anything of that nature. His music is incredibly special, and he's just released an album, so do check that out, Ashley Allen. And Jamie Brewster as well, a phenomenal bass player and general all-round very intelligent person. So I think that's been amazing. So getting to meet those sorts of people, and then obviously all the students that I worked with as well, who were incredible, came from all over the world, Greece, Uruguay. My brain's gone, where did Ali come from? Indonesia. And all this sort of stuff. So it was wonderful to meet with these people and kind of have all their ideas and their fusions of different music influence what we were and did produce ultimately. So yeah, for anyone thinking, well, what's it gonna do for me? I think that's it. It gives you space, it gives you time, and it gives you focus to push your understanding of music as you know it to something else. And whether that something else is something you use, or whether it's something you go, okay, well, I know that now, but I'm never going to touch it again. Are you with me?
Yes, we are definitely with you. And so now we come up to date now. How has 2020 affected your output, your career, your aspirations?
How is it not? Might be an easier question to answer.
That's a good point.
Really, I don't know anybody in our industry who hasn't been affected. I mean, in some ways, really positively. Take Ashley, for example, obviously releasing his album. Would he have potentially had the time and space if he was out performing and doing stuff that he, was doing? Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, there is definitely people that I know 100% who have absolutely taken the opportunity that 2020 has given musicians, which again is that kind of time, that think time, that pause time, to either perfect their craft or improve areas, or maybe even I know a keyboard player, piano player, who's done really well at posting really regularly on Facebook and social media with all the various different types of pianos and instruments that he'd accumulated over the years that had just kind of sat, not necessarily getting used. and now suddenly had the time and space to see what these things that he'd bought do. So that's been really cool to watch.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, for me, from a personal perspective, I think it's given me financially, obviously, it's been detrimental. Let's not, we can't sidestep that. If you're in the events industry and there are no events, you're up a creek, aren't you? And at the beginning, I was thinking, right, well, this is going to work really well. I'm going to adjust my contract and make sure I have cancellation policy in place, because I didn't have one. That was entirely unnecessary, kind of. Well, it wasn't unnecessary, but it turned out to be entirely fruitless, because of course everybody's been cancelled right up until the end of the year and going forward. And that's painful, if we're honest.
Absolutely.
What does it mean in terms of performance? It means I haven't had an opportunity to perform for ages. With that being said, I've done a few lives. I know lots of people have done some amazing live shows, and I've kind of tried to somewhat jump on the bandwagon, but being a bit of a technophobe, it was not and is not easy. Even this is quite tricky for me. I find it very strange.
No, you're doing fine. You are doing so fine.
Rambling. The word you're looking for there. Rambling.
No, you're fine. I've just got a comment come in. There's a listener who says, "Well done on your degree. Enjoying the interview. Impressed by your desire to keep learning your craft and new things, especially after you said you achieved what you initially set out to. Keep going."
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's one of the things that we, as musicians, we can choose to do, can't we? We can say, yeah, okay, brilliant, I can play the piano, and that's what, but I want to play the guitar, for example, or I want to, make progress in different areas. And I think that's something that I feel really strongly about. And luckily, or maybe I've engineered it in some ways, lots of my friends and people that are on my Facebook feed, and I'm sure other social medias, although I'm not hip enough to have them, are doing, and I think that's something that is important as well, making sure you're surrounding yourself, either consciously or subconsciously, around people who are striving and who are going, right, okay, this thing's happened, it's hit, it's affected me, how can I step up and make it happen? I've got a Facebook friend, Dayton Gray, who has done phenomenally over the lockdown in terms of increasing his followers. He's doing doorstep challenges where he's going on, knocking on people's doors and singing to them, like a kind of singing telegram type style thing, and all this sort of stuff that just would not have happened and would not be happening. And I think that's really important, that we surround ourselves with people who are innovative and who are kind of saying, right, I'm going to, seize the day here and use this opportunity to do whatever, I liken it back to, I know that not everybody's a drinker, but obviously in America, when in the 20s, 30s, my brain's going now, when they stopped alcohol, didn't they? And then
Prohibition.
The wonderful cocktails, prohibition. Cocktails came from there. What would we do without cocktails now? Seriously, this thing was invented basically to circumnavigate the rules that were put in place. Well, if you can be surrounded by people who are able to circumnavigate whatever the rules are, or promote themselves, even withstanding everything that's going on, that's a good thing. So and also things like collaborations. I haven't yet, and this is one of my things, but I do need to do it. Create my music video. But if you have a little nose on my Facebook page,
right, hold on, that's coming later. Hold on. I can understand, but we're gonna devote a special time to that, because that's the 50%. Sorry, that's 80% of the purpose of these interviews. It's to give people like yourself an opportunity to create more awareness of what you're doing and who you are, so that you can garner more interest in your output and your work.
And my problem has always been, going back to what we were talking about, is that I've always kind of worked word of mouth. I go and do an event, birthday party or what have you, and from that birthday party I might hand out 10 cards and 4 of them will book me, and this and which then sets you up for the following year, and so on and so on and so on. And that's always how I've worked. I only actually set up my Facebook page in, I think, I don't know, August of this year, which is
Mm-hmm.
crazy, right? Ridiculous,
Mm-hmm.
but that is the truth, as you will see when you will go on. But that is it. So that's an opportunity that I've taken. I've said, right, okay, this is what I need to do. But also the opportunity to collaborate with people that we wouldn't have been able to collaborate with, like yourself. So I, you know, contacted you and said I really want to. I've got this idea in my head for a kind of a funk version of a song, and you know, through a series of voice notes and Facebook kind of messages and goodness only knows what, we managed to create this really cool thing, which started off as a bizarre idea in my head driving along on the M42 to a thing that exists, you know, and that I performed in front of, I think I've had about 8,500 views on one of the streams. That, you know, that many people have now listened to. How cool is that? You know, amazing.
That's very cool. Very cool.
It really is, and that would never have happened, Everton. We would have never been able to do that, or we, you know, it would be one of those things that we keep saying, oh yeah, we'll do that, we'll definitely do that, and you know, 10 years go by, which we've all been there, right? You know. So yeah, I think there's definitely been some positives that have come out of this, you know, in amongst all of the many negatives, and you know, that has to be seen.
Okay, so what do you perceive of the near future?
What do I perceive? I think this is it for a long time, and I am not somebody to be a negative person, and I'm trying not to be, but I think as event musicians, and I say that really clearly because there are musicians who have always worked online and who have made a really good living out of it, and you know, who have always worked on things like Patreon and what's on, my brain's gone. I'm sure someone will post and tell me, but these kind of live streaming and subscription services that exist, and they've always done really well out of that. However, event musicians, which is kind of where I put myself, you know, that I think that's gone for a while at least. So yeah, I think, what am I doing? At the moment I'm teaching. That's my kind of okay, so what, how can I respond immediately? And that's what I've done. Which has its own challenges and is a whole other world of that's a whole other interview that I probably would have to wear a mask for. but
very good.
But yeah, so that's where I'm at the moment. So I'm teaching and trying to get my PGCE and QTS from uni during a global pandemic. Brilliant. But I think from if music is your thing and that's what you're doing, I don't think it should be something you necessarily, inverted commas, give up on at this moment. But I do think you absolutely need to be innovative and look at what you can do. So what can you do? You can post on, you can become a Patreon person and have people subscribe to your service. You can do that. You can, of course, post on YouTube. You can post on Facebook, despite, you know, all of that scaremongering that went around a few months ago. You know, you can release your own music, and I think that's another thing. I've never really written my own music. I haven't really. I mean, I was forced to at university, absolutely, several times, in fact. And that's kind of been the moment I've done it, when my back's against a wall and I have to. You know, and to some success. You know, I'm not saying it's been awful, but it's definitely not something I love. But there are many people that do who love making their own music. This is your time. If you're out there and you love making your own music, you know, this is it. This is the moment, because you are, despite having 1,000,001 followers, somebody like Jamie Cullum, as an example, is releasing his own music album without really being able to go and promote it in the traditional way of going and doing concerts. So in effect, kind of, it's not a level playing field, I'm not saying that, but you have the same output, you have the same facility. You know, there's no way you know, somebody around the corner who is however good a musician they are could ever kind of go and sign up to Wembley. You couldn't, you know, you can't just do it, can you? However, what you can do is sign up to Patreon, or you can do a live Facebook stream, or you can you know, you're on the same platform as the big guns. So if you have that,
absolutely,
you know, you're it's not a level playing field. That's unfair to say, but it's not far off. It's not far off.
Well, you've ventured into the next question, which is what I asked was, what advice would you give to up-and-coming creatives who are thinking of being involved in music?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely do it. There's just so many amazing opportunities out there. And I mean that with all my heart. You know, there's some incredible things that I have done and been able to do because of music, and because, you know, I was willing to stand up in front of a load of people and sing a song. You know, that's it really, when it comes down to it. Do you have the cojones to stand up and sing, or stand up and play guitar, or are you going to play in your bedroom? And, you know, that's the reality. The weirdest thing now is that actually, if you are able to play in your bedroom, you can still get seen by millions of people. How weird is that? You know, there was always that thing, wasn't there? You don't want to be a bedroom musician, you know, saying such a negative thing. Now, look now, who are we to say that, right? But you know, it is what it is. I just think, from my perspective, what can you do? Definitely, however good you think you are, there's always opportunities to be about 10 million times better. And, you know, really surround yourself with people who are better. And I mean that either with what you're listening to, or who you subscribe to, or who you're friends with, or who you, you know, either virtually or in real life, of course. That actually, if you can kind of put that at the front of your mind, if you can surround yourself with phenomenal musicians and phenomenal players, it makes you raise your game. It's a bit like tennis. You know, if you go and play tennis, you know, with someone who's terrible, no one's ever going to get any better. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's one of the biggest things, that when you're playing with phenomenal people, it forces you to be more phenomenal, whatever that is. And I think that's true whichever level you're on. You know, and I think it's important to really be selective over what you're listening to. Listen to everything. You know, if it's good, listen to it, and you know, work it out. Yeah, I was always somebody who kind of just went, oh, that's a really cool thing. And then being at university, you know, it forces you to go, okay, that's a really good thing, but what is it? And I think that's another thing as well with contemporary. We'll call it contemporary, and I'll use that word incredibly loosely to talk as from anything from the 20s up to now. And contemporary music hasn't not been traditionally written down, has it? You know, it is something that you transcribe, and that you listen to, and that you pick out, and you get something from. And that's a challenge in itself, you know. And I think you know, I think actually to be doing that, to be listening to incredible musicians and amazing things. I mean, my influence is Jamie Cullum. I love Scott Bradley. I think what he's done for music in general is just mind-blowing. And then obviously the social media side is, you know, is enviable. Why is my brain gone when I'm trying to think of these people? Aubrey Logan. Absolutely love this woman. She is on another level of insanity. You know, she's the kind of person, if you've never looked at her, please do. She's a trombonist as well as a phenomenal female vocalist and arranger. And she takes a song that you think is already difficult and makes it 10 million times more difficult and more intricate, but she does so in a way that pulls you in as opposed to throws you out. And that's what I think is mad.
Great.
And yeah, and then also, and why is my brain not working? Jacob Collier. I mean, this dude, who is he?
Yes.
You know,
from out of this world.
You know, and if you're not listening to these people, or you know, and I'm more than happy to take advice as you know, and get people's messaging their favorite kind of artists as well, because I think that's how we learn, don't we? We learn when we listen to others, and people go, oh, you've got to listen to this person. And every time someone does that to me, I go, okay, and I write it down. People must think I'm crazy, but I write it down, and I do go and I do listen to that person. And sometimes it's great, and sometimes I think, oh, okay, and other times I'm blown away. Scary Pockets, they're another one. I love them. You know, there are just so many people that are doing wonderful things. I think that is my biggest advice, is to go out, listen to loads of people, listen to them again, listen to different people, transcribe it. Can you play it? Can you do it? Try and emulate it, then try and emulate it in your own way, then do something completely different, then come back to it. That's my advice. Do as much as you can, and then once you have done that, is definitely get out there and perform whenever we can. you know, I mean, I'm a bit dubious about the whole Facebook streaming thing, I have to say. I think, and I'm going to be careful how I say this because obviously it's going out there, but I think there's definitely risk that people just kind of go, oh, I'm going to do a Facebook Live, and they kind of do it, and then it's out there forever. And in some cases it's a good thing, in other cases, you know, not so much. And I think for young people particularly, I don't know, maybe this is my motherly instinct, but I do think you need to kind of be a little bit protective over what you share and what you don't share. A little bit, not lots, maybe a little bit, and kind of only go, right, you know, you wouldn't go into a record label and go, oh, I knocked this up yesterday, I'm not really sure about it, it's okay, it kind of a little bit, what do you think? You would never do that. So in some ways I feel like that might be true, or ought to be a little bit true, you know, on social media. Don't get me wrong, there's some amazing things that happen in the moment, you know, of course, and that, you know, I guess in a live music setting, that's a real special thing. Sometimes when that's translated into social media, is it as special? I don't know. Sometimes it's when it can be rewatched and rewatched and rewatched, and it's an error. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I sound a little bit skeptical, but that
well,
would be.
I think, yeah, well, the problem is, one of the problems that I foresee or think about is the fact that when you're in a live setting, you almost feed off your audience in a way. You get immediate feedback as to what you're doing and how they're enjoying it. Whereas if you're performing online, unless you have the technology hooked up where people can be responding at the same time, you're kind of playing to a blind or a deaf audience in a sense. Yes, they're hearing you, but that feedback is not getting back to you. So you have to be going with what you feel is the right emotion or sentiment or whatever. It's completely different. It's not the same as performing live. So you're absolutely right. It's not something that you just jump on the bandwagon and say, I'll do that. No, because as you said, once it's online, it's there forever. There's no taking it back off and correcting it.
And you know, again, sometimes that's a wonderful thing, and I know loads of professionals that have gone out there and done that, and it's been wonderful and amazing, and they've had, you know, hundreds of thousands of views, and, you know, got followers, and that, you know, I'm not saying don't do it. All I'm saying is, in terms of advice to people starting out, which, you know, was the question, do it selectively, would be my advice. Where my advice about performing live in real life would be everything. Do everything. You know, if you're being asked to go and perform in a tiny pub or a massive stadium or whatever, do everything. When it comes to performing live online, maybe be a little bit more selective. That would be my advice.
Okay. So I want to ask you to tell us where we can find your output. How can we listen to what you've done already, and so on?
Okay, so you can find me at Rebecca Brooks -vocalist on Facebook. So please do come over. As I said, I've only had it for 3 or 4 months, and I'm definitely heeding my own advice and only doing selective lives and selective kind of releases, I guess. And maybe I need to be a little bit more proactive. So in fact I do, if I'm honest. That's something I definitely need to work on, is my social media presence. Yeah,
so hold
definitely.
on, Rebecca Brooks
dash or hyphen
vocalist. They find you if they type that into Facebook.
Yeah, you'll find me definitely. Brooks with an E. But yeah, that's me. That's kind of it, if I'm honest. I don't have a massive social media presence, and with that being said, I am doing things like personal telegrams. So if anybody still wants a video message sending out, that's something I'm doing on live. That's my little adaptation. So that with that, I'm using my kind of technological skills and things that I've learned to create like a really beautiful promotional video for your family or whoever it is that you want me to kind of sing to. So a personalized song along with either video of pictures or a video that you might want to send, like to start it or finish it. So that's something I am doing. So if that's something somebody might want, then please do let me know. Recently I sang for a funeral, which was so bizarre to do that online. But you know, it meant that that family had, I know, but it meant that that family had the most incredible send off that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So yeah, this is the kind of adaptations that we do, right? So please do get in contact with me. So I am doing online live streams personalized to you, and I am also doing video messages pre-recorded with a song as well.
Okay, excellent. All right, so now here comes the cliffhanger. If the year 2020 was a human being, what would you say to him or her?
Oh gosh, what a bizarre thing. Do you know what? I'm really bad with words, so I probably wouldn't say anything. I'd probably do just kind of give it one of those. I probably shouldn't say that. No, I don't know. I think there's been pros and cons, definitely more cons, but it's forced us to be innovative. It's forced us to kind of look at what we're doing and improve ourselves and improve our skill sets. And I think as musicians, that's something that we have to do. We have to do that all the time anyway. But now we're kind of backed into a corner going, right, so you've managed to kind of create the most amazing show. You've managed to get good at lights. You've managed to get good at doors. You've managed to get good at all these things. But never mind all that, because you're not going to go out in public anymore. Now you need to get good at doing stuff online, or now you need to get good at whatever else. So I don't know. I honestly do not know what I would say. I would probably just do a funny look.
Okay. That's good. All right. And what I will say is that I would like to feature you in the future in some way, shape or form, your output. And in terms of this platform, what I need to do is to get the technical gear up to standard to have music performance.
Cool.
But
yeah, that's
in the meantime, I would just like to offer you the opportunity to either come back and give us another interview if you're doing anything new that you want to add, or anything. You know, we'd be only too pleased to entertain you as a guest on this platform again. And thank you very much for giving us this interview this evening.
No worries. Thank you for having me. And yes, I absolutely would love to be back at some point. So please do consider when and in what way, and I will most definitely be there.
Okay, thank you very much, Rebecca Brookes, vocalist and musician. And that's it for another Music Matters with Ev. Until next time, take care.
Thanks so much.